Morning. And today we are going to talk about recommitting. This is not going to be a very long live today because it's Sunday and I don't know about you, but I want to relax. So it's good to see you all. Thank you all for joining me on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. It's always great to be present with each and every one of you. So I've been talking about lives around commitment and investment. And I really was encouraged by Sam, who shared yesterday during the live um, that investing in yourself requires commitment to what's long term, and how giving donations is not about like investing in commitment. It could just be a value based approach to doing something that you can do quickly. And so I wanted to start with this idea of ghosting. So, if you don't know what ghosting is, it is a dating term. It is a dating term that many people of certain generations may have felt if they were with someone and um, they just kind of disappeared. And as a Black woman who teaches liberation work with and working with people in white body, there's a lot of ghosting that happens because a lot of people in white bodies don't feel like they deserve to work with Black folks on their journey because they have caused a lot of harm to Black bodies. And, I get it. I totally understand. But it's also really interesting because you will never be comfortable around Black bodies until you allow yourself to sit, hey, Monica, with Black bodies. And so, I just want to tell all of you all like, ghosting is sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not. Thanks for being here, Monica. Um, and so, if you have ghosted, like your journey, whatever you call it, healing, liberation, anti racism, or ghosted yourself on the journey. I've been there too. I've been there too. So when I'm talking today, I'm talking about recommitment versus shame. Um, and it's really important to know the difference between when you're interested in something and when you're committed. And I talk about that and Heal Your Way Forward. And I'm going to be going live about that next month, interest versus commitment, that chapter in the book. Um, I think people ghost because why? Why do people ghost? Shame, the fear of getting it wrong, burnout from overconsumption, discomfort for accountability. Um, and I want to say that ghosting isn't a failure, but it's just like a reminder to re engage. Ghosting is not a failure, but it's a reminder to re engage. People are ghosting right now because rights are being taken away because there's a new executive order that if you speak about being anti capitalist, anti government, etc., you are considered an enemy of the state. So that's a lot of fear. That is a lot of reasons like, well, I ain't gonna do this no more because I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to go to prison. I have too much on the line. Um, and I asked the question. I used to ask, what do you want to lose for liberation? But what do you want to gain? And for a lot of people, gaining peace and sometimes opting out is easier than sitting in the discomfort and fear. But what if the idea is to move with fear and not against it? Because fear is not enemy, fear is data. Um, and you want to notice where fear is present on your journey and in your life. And so you have to ask yourself, am I avoiding discomfort or protecting myself from perceived harm? So, one of the things that I have to be mindful of now as a teacher in this space is everything that I do and say online can be used against me in the court of law. All of us, right? But when you come from a legacy of enslavement, you have to consider and think about um, how can I still be in it and not of it with this administration? How can I be uncomfortable and still show up? And so it's so funny. I was joking with an elder, and she's like, well, what do you do for work now? And I'm like, I'm a mindfulness teacher. I'm a mindfulness teacher. If you know, you know. If you know why we have to flip the script for a season or two, I am a somatic mindfulness teacher, and I teach people to connect with their bodies, and I teach people to practice direct, compassionate communication to be present for discomfort, right? Because sometimes the fear of not showing up has more power than the actual fear of showing up. Um, and so It's also interesting because ever since that big platform is gone, I was really struggling with showing up and being consistent because I was like, well, they could take any of my accounts away. What do I do then? And then I just told myself last month, I'm going to go live every day for 30 days. I think I'm on like day 20 something. It was twice a day, but then my body was like, you can't do twice a day, do once a day. And so it's like, I'm just going to go live and share a message. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And that's okay. And so I had to learn how to move with the fear that my account can be taken down, move with the fear that the government can decide that I'm a terrorist, and be okay with what comes with that. And be okay with that. My books might get banned and my books might get burned, and be okay with what's coming because it's not permanent, it's all temporary. I think that's what helps me get with the fear. It's just knowing that it's not permanent, it's temporary. And when you move with it, just like shame, I talk a lot about moving with it and not against it, you just get more courage. And we are in seasons of the journey now where we need a lot of courage to face what's happening. And a lot of that courage requires the recommitment. And recommitment is really an act of love because it allows us to practice self compassion. And so a lot of us don't even understand what is self compassion. It's really loving ourselves like we love our friends. You know, your friend's going through a hard time. What's the first thing you do? Oh my God, how can I help? What would happen if we slowed ourselves down enough to ask ourselves, how can I help myself? And move out of like this idea that you can't, because you can. You just need to remember and return. And so when you think about like recommitment and you think about maybe even the word and the idea of ghosting, as I'm calling it, you have to maybe start to ask yourself, like, why did I ghost? Right? What am I afraid of? You have to reflect with those questions. You might then want to reconnect, like, who can you reach out to? Who can support you? And then re enter. Think about what's one action you can take today to make hope or change for yourself. That's needed when you're recommitting to a process and you're recommitting with a love. And that's also going to, there's also need for community and accountability because healing doesn't happen in isolation. And so, you know, there are times that I have to reach out to people um, when I need a break, and I have to step away. And I have to encourage them, like, hey, I need you all to keep going, keep having community conversations. I just need some time away right now to get my head clear, and I need to be held accountable that I can come back even when I need my head to be clear. And so then that requires me to ask for accountability and ask for help to remember to return because it's really easy to leave the work and be like, I'm good, and just sit around and do nothing. And so I just want to encourage you that if you have been struggling and you're doing it in isolation, if you can find community, great. If community is too hard, I totally get that too. But what are some other solutions or creative ways that you can get support for you and yourself on your journey? I want to remind us that Bell Hooks says, rarely, if ever, is healing an act of communion. Isolation space with each other. I accidentally ended the live on the other platforms. This work thrives when you take breaks and return. And one thing that can happen is you can take a break, but like, I ain't going back. Well, maybe that means you just need better boundaries for yourself. So when I think about ghosting and recommitment, I always have to ask, like, how do you affirm yourself on your journey? And that's not a familiar language in liberation spaces. And I realize that I'm not a familiar entity in these types of spaces. And so a lot of times I have to ask myself and affirm for myself my why. Why did I start this journey? And I think if I could share, if I think about recommitted, coming back to where I got started, because that's what it feels like for me these last 3 months. My why is that I wanted to empower white folks to do deep healing work because it deeply impacts the mental health of Black, Indigenous, and bodies of culture. And I've gotten away from that. I've gotten away from the mental health aspects of my work. I've gotten away from reminding folks that when you are mentally unwell, you're not able to be mentally well for others. Um, and part of my work too is around self compassion and being direct and compassionate. And so I have to affirm myself that, like, I started this journey because I saw a different vision for the future. And it's like any hero, epic hero, your own hero, right? Everyone's their own hero, not nobody else's hero. But it just reminds me of sci-fi and fantasy movies where the world's falling shit and you get to choose the path and invite others to join you. And so I just want to let y'all know, I'm very slow and relaxed today, but I want to let y'all know, consider if you have ghosted your journey, if you have given up, what does recommitment look like for you right now? And if I could give you an affirmation, maybe it's you started this journey because you wanted to move through the world differently, and that still matters. And maybe you don't know how to move through the world differently right now. Maybe you're struggling to understand what that looks like when you constantly have things every day, Monday through Friday, not Saturday and Sunday because they give us a break. But 5 days a week, you're constantly probably questioning your humanity or questioning your why. Why should I keep doing this? They gotta cut shit off anyway. And I have to remind you that your why matters and your why is important. And you might need to go back to remembering what is my actual reason for doing this. And when I say your reason, I mean I need you to get deeper than because children in Gaza, because Black children, because Maisha T. Hill, there is something even deeper that's connected to you and your values, and you have to get there. Like we all have to get back to that core. Like, why am I doing this? What matters? And you have to be a part of that. You have to be a part. I am doing this because I believe, I dream, I hope, I know that I am worthy of my own healing, that I am worthy of this so that I can be an advocate for. Do you hear that? There's a difference between I am doing this because Maisha T. Hill's my best teacher and she tells me to do it. I am doing this because the children on the south side of Chicago are in gun violence. And now listen to this. I am doing this because I value the life and humanity of other people. And I value the life and the humanity of myself. When I can see and honor the life and value and the humanity of myself, it gives me space to hold and advocate for the life and humanity of others. So the difference in what I just said was one is forward facing and it doesn't include myself. And one knows that I have to include myself in liberation. It is individual and collective, not just collective. It is interdependent, not codependent. And I think in this era of digital technology and media and breaking news, it is easier for us to face forward than it is for us to face ourselves and face forward. There's two-part strategy. We have to I'm encouraging us to do both. So I want to thank you all for hanging out with me on this short live. I'm going to go and enjoy the rest of my Sunday. I hope that this live brought something for you to think about, something that gave you hope, something for you to remember. I do want to share if you are interested, you can grab a copy of Heal Your Way Forward and you can read the whole chapter on ghosting. But today was just about reminding you to come back with love, to recommit, and to include yourself and the collective when you recommit to the process. It's not just about what you do for others, right? It's not about just service of others. There's got to be, how do you serve yourself? It's not selfish. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will see you all tomorrow on the live. Hey, Jess, thanks for being here.